Good evening. How is everybody doing? I guess it depends on where you're at. As you can see from everything that's going on in this country, right behind the candle, you'll see these cacti. I don't know what they are. It looks to be two different species. It looks like little miniature barrel cactuses, but I don't know about the other. I want to say like organ pipe grows up tall and slender, but I don't know what these are. These have been stunted for, they were in a barrel. They were brought all the way from Arizona like in the 60s, and they were transplanted to barrels, and then they kind of, I think, multiplied. I have them in different containers, and I need to even move them further, but you can see where they're brown is how they got no sun for all those years in that area. You can see the delineation in lines. It's really odd. Anyway, so I'm trying to give them a little bit better life. And I need to do more and split them up even further. But let's see, what was I going to talk about? Oh yes, I thought about this a little while ago, that I grew up in a situation where my parents always told me I was wrong. I was never praised, or if something was said that was nice, like you're really smart, but you don't have any common sense, there was always a but that came behind it. So when you grow up like that, and now it's laughable because I grew up under some very dysfunctional people. But when you grow up like that, you constantly question yourself. And there are different avenues you can take with that. You either gather your strength, which it takes a lot as a child, and you maneuver yourself around the situation. You can smarter than they are type thing. Especially for my younger siblings, I would do those kind of things. I would take the heat, I'd lie, I'd come behind them and do something that they should have done to protect them. Those sorts of things. Make it to where they could be gone for a couple of hours and nobody knew they were gone but me. So they could have more freedom. So there was a lot of that happened. And there was a lot of verbal arguing, because there would get to be points where I would just want to just say the truth. Whatever I understood to be the truth at that time. And it was usually truthful, but there was much more to it. I just didn't know. And of course, the arguments and the punishment and so you grow up constantly questioning yourself, but then you also grow a part of yourself where there's a little bit more confidence there in some ways. But then there's this inferiority because you don't have parents who show you love. My parents always tried to do it through gifts, like that was going to make up for anything. And it was usually done at Christmas, not throughout the whole year, just one time a year. Birthdays could be forgotten, put off a week, or they could be made a big deal of, rarely, if they were in some sort of great mood or condition. Anyway, so, and then you just get to points where you want to fade into the woodwork because you're just tired of fighting. And I had periods in my life like that because I chose the wrong people to be with. And it's hard to know with children when to fight and when not to fight, what battles are important and what's not important. Because with teenagers you could be battling all the time if you wanted to. But that's really not my nature until I've had enough. There's just, and then there comes a point where there's a switch, and you realize that it's yourself that you should have trusted all along, with a little extra help, definitely, from our Creator. And it's those out there that you need to be questioning. And since you've been really good at questioning yourself your whole life, you know exactly what to look for and possibly what they're thinking. It's what makes us, especially in our older age, very good at putting a lot of the pieces together. And not wanting to sometimes believe what is possible now in this world, given that the reins were let go of and the horses were allowed to run wild. But unlike beautiful horses who might actually stand a chance given the right terrain, these particular horses are kind of weak. And yeah, they'll be the first ones eliminated. Like an animal farm, and send the horse off to the glue factory. Yeah. Kind of like that. A lot of reading. My grandfather asked me one time, why do you waste your time on all these fiction novels? You should be reading nonfiction. And I told him that there's a lot of factual information in fiction novels and a lot of hidden meaning and beautiful words trying to communicate truths. And there's a lot to be learned in things that are hidden. Sometimes a lot more than you can find in the nonfiction novels. He just kind of smiled at me, smirked. But he was a big nonfiction reader, very, very smart. But turns out he was heavily dyslexic, but ended up being an optometrist. So, I mean, back then, people worked around their problems. He couldn't type. He would, you know, earn money and pay somebody to type his notes for him, decipher them so that he would understand them and whatever, or type his papers for him. But he was really good at what he did. He was my doctor forever until he couldn't be, even at a distance. Even at a distance, as much as possible, I would sit in his chair because he always got it right. So you can overcome, you know, you can come from a lot less and even have dyslexia. He never spelled my name right. In all the years, he never spelled my name right, but he wrote it so perfectly using a ruler. So you draw a straight line on an envelope. It's, you know, meticulous, but dyslexic. Because he had a hard time, you know. Writing wasn't easy, but he wanted it to be perfect. It's funny. You think of those things now. So I flipped and no longer question myself as much as I used to. I still question myself. You should. You know, if somebody points something out to you, you should, you know, consider it. But, you know, not at the level that was done to me. And not to that level. That's demeaning yourself. Thinking you're less than. But everybody should always keep themselves in check. And you can do that by just double and triple checking yourself on your information. And being open to the fact that you might be wrong. And I have double, triple, quadrupled checked. And I'm still holding to the avenue I started 2 years ago. I wish all of you much peace, and I ask you to prepare like those, you know, with the truckers and everything. We have to prepare if we're going to, you know, if people are going to protest and make a stand, the people around them need to prepare. Whatever preparation it is, prepare. We don't know. And hang on to hope. And do know, I'm hanging on to this. I'm always going to remember my 8-year-old son telling me, Mama, I did not want to come back. He didn't want to come back. My son who had the NDE, a near-death experience. I'm always going to try and remember that. Hang on to that. There's strength to be drawn from that. Much love to you all, and I wish all of you only the best. Stay good. but stay firm in who you are. Bye for now.